Star Wars Spelt Out. This is Josh Chapman speaking, and today I'm at home and I've got a returning guest on here, but she's not in the studio. I've mercifully told her that she doesn't have to drive all the way over just to do this little reaction pod that we're going to do. It's Catherine Kneen from That Geek Pod. Hey, Catherine.
Hey, how you going?
I'm good. I thought, that the weather was a bit lousy outside. You've just gone
Yeah.
back. You've gone back to work. School holidays are over, so expecting you to drive all the way over here just to, talk Star Wars. I thought it was a bit of a step too far.
Oh, I did think about it.
Well, it would have been. It would have been. It works quite well at the moment. I've done a couple of Skype ones and it's working pretty well. And I'm sure if we'd had Andy involved too, he probably would have wanted to do it in person. But this means we don't have to get out of our jammies or anything like that. So it's quite
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So obviously we're here to talk Resistance. It's just come out. And what we're going to basically do is we're going to record this little intro, and then we're going to jump off, and then we're going to watch Resistance, and then we're going to jump back on, and we're going to talk about what we saw, what we thought, and so on and so forth. But before we dig in any further, since there's other big Star Wars TV news, what did you think of The Mandalorian?
Oh, I'm a bit more excited than what I thought I would be. I thought it looks really quite cool, and all the names of the directors has got me interested.
Yeah, I mean Taika Waititi and Bryce Dallas Howard. They did say on her thing that she has directed stuff before. I'd never seen it, but she's obviously from good directing stock. It's all in the family.
Yeah, and there's another woman, at least one other woman, and there's people of color, so it's a nice diverse directors list anyway.
Yeah, they certainly have addressed that, haven't they? Any criticisms that you might have about a lack of diversity, they've really gone and stacked the deck with a lot of a bit of thing from everywhere. And Dave Filoni gets a crack as well. And there's the lady who's done a couple of Jessica Joneses, and it's going to be good. It's we don't know anything about it yet, but the one photo looks very Star Warsy.
Yes, the one photo that has started endless speculation. One photo.
I know. And the fact that it's, like a Mandalorian, people love that stuff. So they're just, I was listening to the Blue Harvest boys and Hawes. He's a particular big Mandalorian fan. They were talking about the belts and how the belt is slightly different and the armor and this and that. And
there's no jetpack, there's a gun and all this stuff.
They're mad for it, but it's exciting. So that's all sort of taking off soon, which is very, very cool. I know we're a little while away from that yet, but we're actually here to talk Resistance. So what were your? We have sort of touched on it a little bit, when you've been on the pod and stuff. What are your sort of expectations? Do you think fun, kid friendly?
It looks very kid friendly. It looks very much like the kids things that I see on Disney XD and don't watch.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We'll just have to find out, whether it's something that we think that we can sit through, or whether it's something that's a bit more like, this is kind of hard work and stuff like that. But it's sort of our only Star Wars content at the moment. So we've either got to accept it and love it, and watch it, or basically just sit it out and wait until. I think. Episode 9. Will Episode 9 come before The Mandalorian, or we don't know yet, I guess?
We don't know for sure, but Episode 9 will be December 2019. And you'd think The Mandalorian would be on that streaming service if it gets released here in Australia sometime next year.
That's a big if, isn't it?
Yes. Big,
still
big if.
the little backwater of the world sometimes, aren't we?
Yeah, well, even with Resistance, the release here is a bit more staggered than in the US. So, we don't quite know what's going to happen with the streaming service and other Disney products.
Yeah, shout out to Matt Grant, who's been on the show from Blue Bantha Milk. He did a bit of digging about how to see Resistance legitimately in Australia, and there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through, and you have to have a lot of big pay TV packages and things like that. So it's going to be difficult for Australians, I think, to see it, which is easily, which is a bit frustrating. But it's never stopped them before. Purely because of those reasons, I think that they sort of make this stuff difficult. But anyway, so the Mandalorian, it's looking interesting. It's obviously set behind after Return of the Jedi. There's not much information apart from that. Seems like we don't really know what to expect. There was a rumor that the fellow from Game of Thrones might be in it, which was cool, but that's more of a making Star Wars, they're about dropping the scoops. We're not really a scoop kind of website here or podcast.
Yeah, so, that guy from Game of Thrones, whose name escapes me at the moment, the Red Viper, no, the Sand Vipers were his daughters. So I can't quite remember at the moment. But, he had a rather rememberable death in Game of Thrones.
Didn't he have his eyes squeezed out? Oberyn Martell.
Don't.
I've just put the image in your head. I don't think there'll be any of that in game. I don't think there'll be any of that in Resistance somehow, Catherine, I'd say. Catherine is rubbing her eyes right now over the Skype. I've put a bad vision in her head. Sorry, apologies for that.
Well, anyway, Resistance, yes. Resistance.
Back to Resistance. Yes. So, anyway, so let's not muck around any further. Let's just get stuck into it. So what we'll do is we're gonna sign off. I'll put in a little bit of waiting music. You don't have to wait for the entire length of the episode. We're not going to live watch it or anything. We'll hit pause and we'll come back. But I don't know. I'll get the intro. I purposely didn't talk over that because I'm just going to use that now, and that's our waiting music. So I'm going to cut that in again. And maybe I'll put a little backing track to it or something like that, and that'll be our waiting music. So we'll come up. So I will see you on the other side of... we're just going to watch the first episode as well. We're not watching all 4, which I think you can get. We're just going to do the first one. So I will see you on the other side, Catherine.
Catch you on the flip side.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back. That's like time. It was time travel. Then we've passed through time. We've just had Catherine's waiting music that's just kicked in again, and we've just gone and we've just watched the opening. Well, it's a double episode, isn't it? It's basically the first 2 episodes stitched together to Star Wars Resistance, and the first episode was the pilot, I believe. I think it was called The Pilot, and it was the pilot. Although I think it was already... Oh, the recruit, that's it, not the pilot, sorry. I was going to say it wasn't really a pilot because they'd already committed to the series, I think, so that didn't really count. So, straight off the bat, Catherine, just give me very straight off first impressions.
The main character, I wasn't loving. I've got to admit that he's got that, but again, it's probably the trope of being a child cartoon. He sort of has that trope of always speaking in exclamation marks and everything's big.
He's very enthusiastic, isn't he?
Yes.
So this is Kaz. Now I was trying to get the character list here so I could actually refer them. Kazuda Xiono.
Yep.
And yes, he's very exuberant.
Yes. You sort of feel like, have levels, man. Have levels with your peril and excitement. Everything sort of seemed to be at 11.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It was actually just the opening was very...
I did like the opening, yeah.
It was very exciting, but you just kind of got dropped in. It was a bit like, oh, okay, what's he doing? What's his deal? It looks like he's flying for the New Republic. He's got a couple of mates. They tangle with a TIE fighter.
A red TIE fighter.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it? I did off the bat, I mean, the first thing my impressions were, I really liked the art direction. I actually really liked the animation. It was actually quite not jarring, but how freely they moved. Like I'm so used to that
Okay.
Rebels Clone Wars where they're all a bit kind of stiff, that bit the kind of CG model, and here they're all
Yeah.
kind of flowing. Their arms are flying around, and they're
Like
very
those
zippy.
balloon men.
Yeah, like the balloon man at the front of the car dealerships. But the movement was very quick. But even when they were walking down hallways and things, it was very smooth. Yeah,
Yeah.
just the way it worked, I thought that was quite interesting. It's a very big departure from Clone Wars and Rebels, I think, which people always go on about how much different the animation in those two, but I think they're cut from the same cloth anyway.
Yeah. An evolution of each other.
Yeah. So Kaz is a young pilot, and he gets to tangle with a First Order TIE fighter, and then
So he's part of the New Republic Navy. Was that what was
Yeah.
happening? Yeah.
So I'm not too sure because they don't really explain, because they kind of say, "Oh, we've got this intelligence, we've got to get it to Poe Dameron in the Resistance." Like I always kind of, and then they sort of, Resistance seem to be considered sort of a fringe group, so it's a little bit
Yeah.
weird that they're even helping the Resistance at all. But I think some of the expanded universe books sort of talk about what the relationship between the Resistance is to the New Republic.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I think my understanding is that Leia kind of starts it because the New Republic doesn't really have a military anymore because they think that everything's all cool, and Leia's suspicious of the First Order, so she starts the Resistance as sort of a fringe thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think was it in Bloodlines, where you sort of start to get the hints of her building the Resistance and recruiting pilots, or at least getting interested in what the First Order is doing, but no one being prepared to listen to her, I think.
Which is
From memory
crazy
of that
because she's
book.
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. General Organa.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I did like how he fanned out over General Organa. I thought that was quite. I mean, he was, like you said, he was very exuberant. We probably should go back to first impressions. What were your other first impressions before we get too much into plot?
I liked his blue droid, so I was a bit disappointed we didn't see more of him.
Now,
He's-
he made. Sorry to interrupt. He made the exact same noises as R2, which is a
Yeah.
bit strange because they always sort of subtly change the noises of the protocol droids. But I was really listening out for sound effects and things, and there was one of the sound effects I caught in there. I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, he was quite cool. But he had the exact sort of same noises as R2.
Well, he's an astromech droid, so is he an R2 something like our R2, or is he something else?
I love his
don't-
R2.
Yeah, because on the character list I've got here, I can't find him. Seem to have everyone else, but
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just looking on the Wikipedia page. It doesn't really. I'd have to sort of dig in a little bit deeper, I think. But he was quite cool. I did like the design on him. I thought he was he was very cool, and it was nice to see. It was nice to see some red TIE fighters and some cool ship designs and stuff as well. I thought that was very cool, and just
Yeah.
the New Republic. He was sort of in the New Republic gear as well. I hadn't seen that before as well.
yeah. And then he, when he went to on the names escape me, but on the old ship, he's like fanning out again over. Wow.
Oh yeah. Do you think that
this-
was the actual ship, the Tantive 4 or whatever? Because he does, because Bo Dameron goes, "Oh, this has been in the Battle of Scarif, and this ship's been around for ages." So I wonder, could that possibly be the same ship or not? I mean, I'm sure you could probably dig around the internet. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But we'll speculate for now.
Because what did happen to the Tantive 4?
Well, I don't know. This is the thing. Like it's I don't know. Someone will know. We need some hardcore. You need the Star Wars explained guy, or somebody who's really really knowledgeable to know that stuff. But I don't know. It could possibly be. I mean, I always just like seeing that ship because it's so tied to Star Wars, the original Star Wars.
Such an iconic design, just the shape. It's immediately identifiable. You go, ooh, that's it. That's the Tantive 4.
Yeah, exactly. What else struck you after watching it, Catherine?
So just the first bits.
Oh, just in general, just when you sort of
yes,
switched it
in
off,
general.
you were kind of like, I don't know, or yeah, that's fun, or
I liked where they ended it. The got with that red TIE fighter going back to Starkiller Base. So again, tying it back to that first order of, oh, this is the menace.
Yep.
I think because I don't relate to, like, say, car racing or anything like that, the plane racing didn't really get me. And also I was like, but where are the obstacles? Make it cool. Make it with an obstacle course or something they've really got to fly around to show their
Yeah.
flying skills. It looked like you're going around in a circle.
Well, I
Okay.
guess they got to start somewhere. I'm sure it's not the first race. I mean, I don't know whether it's just going to be a racing show or whether there's going to be a bunch of other stuff or not. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it was actually quite like, oh yeah, they're just flying through. It doesn't seem like it was too tricky. Oh, it didn't seem like, because they were kind of going, oh, everybody who races against her gets blown up, and you're probably going to blow up. I'm like, who's blowing you up? Like, you've
Yeah.
just got to hang behind her and get through the thing. Like, it wouldn't have made any difference. It wasn't. I always assumed that they'd be all racing and they'd all be trying to. It'd be more like a pod race, where they're all trying to
Yeah.
smack each other off the. But maybe that's to come. Maybe they're like, hey kid, you just did the wussy race, and we've got the real races to come.
Or I guess I was almost imagining like that, like in Greece, the drag race where you've got to go crazy and you're heading towards the bridge, or with the things at the side that you could crash into.
Did you just want to see, Kaz and the pit crew and all those guys just dancing on that starship and doing a song and
Well,
basically
well, now I do.
fireball lightning,
Yeah.
go fireball lightning. Um,
Yes.
so do you think you'll stick with it?
Um, I think I will. I think there could be some interesting things there with the bringing in the First Order
That's
and
yeah.
learning more about the Resistance.
That feels like the more interesting side of it to me, the sort of the espionage side, the threat of the First Order. Um, obviously, I mean, I know this happens in almost all the Star Wars, like Rebels and Clone Wars and all that kind of stuff, but I suppose just because this is the first one that's bouncing off the sort of the new trilogy, you kind of go, oh, Starkiller Base. Oh, I already know it gets blown up.
Yeah.
Oh, the Resistance. Well, I already know at the end of The Last Jedi, there's like 7 people left. So, from that point of view, you kind of go, oh, well, I don't know exactly where everybody's going to end up, but you sort of know the end game. So that's why it's probably doubly important that how we get there is more interesting, because you kind of do know, even they talk about Captain Phasma, like, well, I know she falls down a hole in a fireball, and
Yes. Yes. And she's dead. I think she's dead.
you don't think it's like a Boba Fett thing, and it's just people can't be convinced
Oh.
that she's. I would be fine if she came back and she's just like, can't kill me, but I don't know. We'll see.
So she's just the Kenny of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, she could be. She could be. Um,
Uh,
so a lot of Oscar Isaac in this,
a lot more than what I was expecting.
although he does kind of go, all right, you've got this under control. I'll see you later.
Bye.
I'll be back in the last episode.
But he left BB-8 there.
I know. I thought that was really strange too. And now I don't know about timelines, but I had read the Poe Dameron comics, which sort of take place before Force Awakens and things. And BB-8 is by his side all the time. So it seems weird that he would just randomly drop him off just to look after some kid. But I guess you don't have to pay someone to voice BB-8 in every episode. You just got to put him in there, and kids love BB-8. So
I mean, I love BB-8, but I want him with Poe Dameron. The two of them belong together. Like we saw that in The Last Jedi when they'd been separated for a little bit and they came back together. How happy was Poe?
he
They
gave
just want to
his
be
tummy a
together.
little rub and everything.
Oh, that was so cute. It was so cute.
Yeah, so no, he was in it a lot. He was, he was good. He was cool. He didn't phone it in. I kind of thought he might just be like, yes, thank you, really not much else to say kind of thing. But
Yeah.
he really, he was in it quite a lot in that first episode. He really made an effort. I thought that was cool. It's good of Oscar Isaac to do that, and I thought his character design was really good. I think it fit in the style really
Yeah.
well. But straight away you go, that's Poe Dameron. He looked very cool. He had very cool hair, and
Yeah.
I really liked the art direction. I really liked how they managed to capture those characters. I thought Leia looked good too for what we saw, and
Yeah. And the other character I liked was the older guy. Was it Yarrick Yeager or
was it
Jarek
was it the fellow
Yeager?
with the beard?
Yeah, the sort of head of the team.
Yep.
I liked him, and there's a story there. I want to know that
Yeah.
story.
I always like when they kind of go, "Oh, we've got a history," and you're like, "Oh, what did you do? Were you part of the rebellion or something cool like that?" I do like
Yeah,
how they haven't really gone into it yet, but they did hint at it, and I think that there are just pilots who used to be in the rebellion. There are pilots who used to be in the Empire. Now that that's all over, it
yeah,
doesn't really matter. You just kind of cross circles and with other, all that kind of stuff's not too worried about now. Because I guess it was, for a lot of people, if you were just in the Empire, you didn't have much of a choice. It was just a gig. So
yeah,
once it's done, you just get on with your life. But yeah, he did seem like an interesting character, and they had the sort of the feisty British mechanic as well.
yep. Tam,
I'm
I
glad you've got all
see.
the things here.
Yeah, I've got my little list up here. I wouldn't remember without this list. It's got the faces as well.
Oh,
I was a bit worried about
you got a
that.
much better thing than I've got. I was looking for something, I couldn't really find anything decent, so I'll refer to you. What did you think of? What was his name? He was the green guy who was He was sort of the guy who was bigging up Kaz.
Yeah,
Uh,
Niku.
yeah, I quite liked him.
Niku.
I found him quite funny in a funny kind of clueless way.
Yeah, so he's quite literal. So that's an interesting character to put on there. Someone who's very literal, and I think kids would really laugh at what he's doing and his misunderstandings. So he
Yeah.
could be a good kid sort of substitute in the world.
Yeah. Now I'm pretty sure he is played by a guy who is in one of my favorite shows, Silicon Valley, and he's the fellow who plays Big Head in Silicon Valley. So I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
No.
his character is a bit of a I don't know what the word is. I wouldn't say stupid. He's a little bit clueless, a little bit vague, I suppose. I think it's quite good. He's a bit naive as well, and I think it
Yeah.
suits this character quite well. But yeah, I like that. I mean, in a cartoon, it's still very much a kids slanted sort of thing. So it's all a little bit mishappy and I didn't mean this and I didn't mean that, but I did like it. Its pace felt a lot quicker than Rebels or Clone Wars as well. It felt like things were sort of happening quite quickly, even the cuts and the delivery of the lines and the gags and stuff. And there was a lot of like, I didn't say that. And someone in the background going, yes, he did. And there was all those little sort of quippy things.
Yeah, it's definitely how TV is presented now for the younglings, and how they want things now. So yeah, as you say, the quick edits and lots of things going on, very short sentences, no long monologues like this is now.
Well, I thought that worked. I think it suited it quite well, and it worked quite well. I think Oscar Isaac, got that right away. Like his delivery was very like he hit that tone very.
Yeah.
He did that really well. And I heard Bobby Moynihan as well. He was actually touching on that. Lots of OG original aliens. There was a Snaggletooth. There was some Rhodians. There
Yes.
was some Ugnaughts. There was a couple of really classic Star Wars character creature design, which was really good. I was really happy to see those.
Yeah, so I spotted a few and a few that I also recognise from Rebels as well. But it's good to see, yeah, old aliens getting another run again because although we'd like new alien designs, it's good to also use some of the aliens that we have because like we've never really gotten to know a Rhodian.
Yeah, that's right. All we know is that they, get in bar fights and get themselves shot.
And wear orange vests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always find that I think the Rhodian in this one just talks. He doesn't. He doesn't talk like Greedo with subtitles or anything. I think he just sort of like talks like like a can't say normal person, but like
Yeah.
most of the human characters do. So it's always a bit funny when they go, oh, a creature that's only done one thing previously starts doing something
Yeah.
else. But
And so the Rhodian, we haven't really met him yet, but his name's Hype Fazon, I think. Hype
oh
Fazon,
wow, hype! And
something.
he's played
Hype.
by Turk from Scrubs,
Yes. Yes.
Donald
So,
Faison. So
yeah.
Hype Faison is played by Donald Faison. So they, I think they must have had him in mind, or they've at least named him after him. I think.
Yeah. So I've been watching shows with him on it now. It seems forever because he was in the movie Clueless. He was on the TV
Hmm.
series of Clueless. He was in
Wow,
Scrubs, and now he's in Star Wars Resistance. So it feels
I
like
did
my
not.
life is surrounded by Turk.
I didn't know there was a TV series of Clueless.
Yes, it was about
Was
three
it Alicia
seasons.
Silverstone as well, or had she moved on to be
No,
Batgirl by then?
she'd moved on. It was though uh, a lot of the other original ones. The original God, what's her name? Anyway, Cher's main best friend, and her boyfriend who is Donald, and the main antagonist on there. I know a lot about that TV show. That
You
was on
do.
in the 90s.
I'm assuming Paul Rudd isn't in it either. Although Paul Rudd didn't
No,
become famous until later on in life, so it wouldn't surprise me that he.
he was
Okay,
famous. He
yeah,
was
he was.
famous.
He was almost always
But no,
famous.
he wasn't on that show, Clueless.
Well, it's good to see that he's still getting work anyway. Because I wasn't a massive Scrubs fan, but I certainly watched enough of it to be to be a fan of it. But if that makes sense. So right, so where did we land here? So essentially, we kind of ended up in a position where he's on this ship. He's on this sort of big freighter, and he's got a job as a spy. There's a little bit of talk about he's got a sort of a disapproving father as well. That's kind of sort of hinted at as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that could be interesting as well because his father was a senator, so it could be interesting any type potential conflicts there in the future.
yeah, well, depending on how long the series runs, if it sort of gets closer to the Force Awakens, I mean the Senate and everything kind of gets blown up. So
Yeah.
whether they go there, depending how long the series lasts for, we don't know that yet. But it would be interesting if they got into that sort of period of time where the First Order really steps into the main play and is sort of hiding in the shadows and things as well.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether it's going to be confined always to that one outpost or whether they're going to go other places and explore other corners of the galaxy or go on missions or something off-world.
Yeah, it's not really explained, is it? Because he's kind of got a job as a mechanic, so you kind of assume that he's just on that platform. But I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see how it branches out. It's good to be in a sort of new location. It's sort of a different thing. It's not neither rebellion or First Order or resistance. It's sort of this. It's kind of a cool way of going. Oh, we've got a new group of people, but we're not necessarily doing what we did before, which is like smugglers or like the rebels, like the Ghost Crew or anything like that. It is this sort of slightly different. It's almost like a location comedy, isn't it? If it is all sort of based on
Yes.
this one location.
Yeah, so the sitcom of the Star Wars world,
Yeah,
the
well, that's
workplace sitcom.
well, it's probably the closest that we've had. I mean, we'll have to wait and see how the other episodes play out, but it is probably the closest to a workplace sitcom.
Well, they've got the watering hole of the tavern and the antagonists at your work. They've got the other shops and places that they can go to. So
Yeah, I did
yeah,
like how they kind of opened up. They sort of had the market. They touched on the market as well, and then so there seems to be the market, the racing, the tavern, the garage, and yeah, that's sort of the stuff they've established. And they kind of
yeah,
fleetingly showed the other pilots. I think who will become obviously more prevalent as the series goes on. It was quite a clever way that they showed. They said, oh, you can choose to race these you know, although he was a bit like, oh, he's pretty quick to choose that girl to race against.
Yeah. Do you think it's because she was the one in there going waving and like this cutesy photo, and the others are
Well,
there
yeah,
staring, looking mean?
yeah, potentially. Yeah, I thought maybe he just didn't give her enough respect or something, but I could be wrong. But yeah, she was an interesting character. She felt very anime, like felt like a very
Yes.
like hello, do do do. Felt like a very like an Astro Boy or one of those sort of anime lady characters and stuff like that, some sort of the 80s and stuff. But I'm sure they're very conscious to. You were talking before about before we came back talking about the Mandalorian directors, like being quite a diverse bunch. They've really sort of hit the diversity button hard in this list, haven't they? They've kind of covered
Yeah.
all the bases.
Yeah. Which is good. It's good to see some diversity. You don't want it, forced, but obviously there's more than just, Caucasians out there. So, hit all the people you can. And with voice casting especially, it doesn't matter. It's just what your voice sounds like, whose voice is best.
Yeah, that's right. And I haven't looked. I'll just see if I can find the Resistance actors. I think their nationalities match. Well, apart from the aliens and stuff, obviously, but the chap playing Kaz has an Asian background, and Poe Dameron, we know that Yarrick Yeager is an African American chap, and
Cool.
yeah, the ones like Stephen Stanton's in there. He looks like he's playing a big gruff white guy anyway, and Stephen Stanton's not particularly gruff, but he is a big white guy, so that seems to be on brand.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's got the Dean from Community in it,
Oh, excellent.
and he's
This,
playing Flicks, but I don't know. I don't
oh,
know who.
he's the owl-looking alien in the
Ah,
spare parts place.
right. Well, there you go. That now I've just become even doubly. He wasn't the Ugnaught; he was the other bloke. So I think Bobby
Yeah.
Moynihan was the Ugnaught,
Yes.
and he's the other guy.
Yeah, that I think looks a bit like an owl. So,
He's got those long legs.
mm,
What did you
and
think of
beak.
the? Oh, yes, the beak. What did you think of the frog thing? Is it the new Porg?
Yeah. Now, did they eat it at the end? I don't think they ate it. Is it
No.
just loose in the spare parts shop now?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the recurring cute character when you go down there every time. It's like, oh, we were going to eat him, but now he's part of the family. We couldn't not.
So is it going to be like those She-Ra cartoons or He-Man cartoons where every episode you have to spot the waving little character in the corner?
Oh wow, well maybe. I thought you were going to say, are they going to have a little lesson at the end where Poe Dameron tells us to look both ways before we cross the road and stuff like that? I would like
Well,
that.
yeah, yeah,
We got to
yeah.
learn a few little lessons.
And friendship is, what really matters. Or
I think
no,
we're going to learn that lesson anyway. I think.
yes, yes, family.
Yeah, the old family. Always got to come back to the family taking care of things.
Mm.
Always remember rely on your family.
Yeah,
Although I do like that it is more of a because it is sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bigger location. It seems like there is the core characters probably aren't as reliant on each other. You know what I mean? Like Rebels was
yeah,
very much like it's these 5 people all the time. They go off and do things, but they're in this confined space. They're always like, well, 2 of you go off and do this, and 1 of you go off and do this, and it's always the same. Like I think that we sort of working on a larger scale location and stuff. There'll be more. I feel like it'll probably center more around Kaz, and the other characters will sort of drift in and out more. I think I don't think every
yeah.
episode you'll just be seeing the same people, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so it definitely is a large list of supporting characters in there. You're right that we'll see Kaz and probably Jaeger quite a lot, but I think everyone else might be a bit more up and down, especially say these ace pilots as he sort of tries to get close to one each week and work out, are they the first order spy or things like
Yeah,
that.
and what they actually do, like if you're an ace pilot, then great, but do you what's your job? like, do you just race, or do you take missions? Do you do charters? Do you do supply runs? Do you, what are you actually doing there? Like, it doesn't, like, there must be some sort of economy that runs around, like, kind of saying, oh, this is where they hang out and they want to, like, do stuff, but they must go places and do stuff. So I think
Yeah.
that'll be the thing that we're sort of yet to know.
Yeah, and coming in, I hadn't really read anything or very much about resistance, and in my mind, I'd sort of thought, oh, they're on a resistance base or ship, but there's a first order spy in there, and Poe Dameron sent Kazing to figure out which one is the first order spy. So I had everything round completely wrong. So, I really don't know where we're going. Being set on this racing platform.
Yeah, but it's quite an interesting concept, isn't it? Because there is no particular allegiance one way or the other for everybody, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, well, maybe somebody's working for the First Order, but the rest of the people here don't particularly care who's in charge as long as they get to do what they do, really. They're not too fussed one way or the other. So, yeah, so we'll see. I'll definitely keep running through it. I'll stick with it for a bit longer and see how I go. I was certainly entertained. I had a good time. I had a good chuckle and things, but I'll probably need the stakes to be raised to keep me in.
Yes. I want to see more of the First Order and, what they're doing, and more perhaps of behind the scenes of the Resistance, how they're building that relationship with the New Republic. Yeah, I want to see the stakes, not just Bathurst.
Very on brand, because Bathurst was on last week, Catherine. Very well done. Yeah. So this we'll put this out. I'll put this out. This is going to be the next in line for our releases and stuff. So when's That Geek Pod coming back?
Well, when Andy comes back.
Andy's on a European sabbatical, isn't he?
Yes. So Andy's having a lovely long trip away. So I'm
swanning
here
around Europe while we're all just schlepping here in Australia.
Yes. But we'll be back. We'll be back with a vengeance. New Doctor Who dropped a few days ago, so I was very excited about that.
I watched it last night. We're not doing too much Who talk, but I really enjoyed it. I thought she was fantastic. I kind of was expecting nothing less, really. I thought the episode itself was pretty good, pretty strong, good starts, but she was just great,
Yeah.
And she'll continue to be great, I think, and that's why she's Doctor Who.
Yeah, so, brilliant start. I really, really liked her. So, I look forward to when Andy comes back, and so I can bombard him with Doctor Who talk, because he's not as big a Whovian as I am. So I might have to get him into it, or just have an episode where he just goes, yes, Catherine, yes, Catherine.
Well, that's good, though,
I just talk at him.
It's good to have someone who comes in who doesn't bring the baggage, along that sort of you can get if you're a big fan of something, and that's sort of always why I like occasionally having people on this show who don't really know much or kind of casual, because you can kind of get that perspective. But when I want to talk proper Star Wars Resistance and I want to talk reactions, I bring in the big guns, and that's why I asked you in, Catherine.
Pew pew.
Oh, we're getting some some gun fingers over there. So thanks for coming on. We'll wrap it up. We're not going to, we won't go too long on this. As I think we've sort of dug deep enough on this so far. We'll revisit another time, and I'm sure we'll get Catherine back on. We had the Rogue One commentary go up, which actually I got quite a few downloads. I was a bit surprised. I thought people would just be like, oh, that seems like a bit of a mission. And we actually got a bunch on Spotify, which is really weird. Like more than we... So I don't know whether people were just searching for the Rogue One like soundtrack and they just got the commentary instead. But it got quite a few plays and stuff. So I don't know whether you get one play if they spend 5 minutes and then they turn it off or anything. But anyway, it was a good time, and we'll do it again. But anything else you want to plug before we sign off, Catherine?
No, but be on the lookout for new That Geek Pod podcasts at some point. I'll be keeping on the Twitter, so tweet That Geek Pod on Twitter, at That Geek Pod, about your thoughts on Doctor Who or Star Wars Resistance. I'm at Catherine _Kneen. So yes, come and find me and tweet me about your thoughts on Doctor Who or Star Wars Resistance or anything geeky.
Survivor.
Oh yes, Survivor. Now, do we tell what I've put on pause to come and talk Star Wars about?
I know, and that's why I appreciate this, because Catherine, it's Catherine's grand final tonight. It's the Survivor finale, and she's been kind enough to I should have put this up front, to put it on pause to basically indulge my stupid podcast and watch Resistance. So I won't keep you any longer, Catherine. And you can get in there and you can get into the meat of it. But yep, you can follow us at Star Wars Spelt on all the socials. If you like Peppa Pig, I do a Peppa Pig podcast as well with our buddy Matt Frost. You can find that at Peppa Pig Pod. Yeah, thanks again, Catherine, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.